Okay, teachers, a couple announcements next, or this Sunday. Okay, so this Sunday is our Connect Breakfast kickoff at 9 a.m. in the Fellowship Hall. Please be there. I know a lot of you don't go, your classes don't go, but this is a big event. We've got lots of food. We got egg casseroles, egg and sausage croissants from Nikki's Sugar Shack, egg and bacon croissants, coffee cake, cinnamon rolls, fruit, coffee, juice. Please come. Please encourage your class to come if you have access, or make the effort to text them or something. Also, don't forget to get your curriculum out of your boxes for the following week, which is a new quarter, as we will be studying the book of Romans. Okay, so this is our last lesson, our second and last lesson on Ruth, entitled Redemption, Ruth chapter 3, verses 8 through 13, chapter 4, verses 13 through 17. You might want to ask your class, just an idea, have you ever wondered what God is doing in your life? All of us have. Why are you in this current situation you're in? Well, the book of Ruth really shows us how God's plan, though it looks very confusing and even convoluted to us, is perfect and purposeful. Think about it. This isn't just a love story of two people who are unlikely to fall in love. This is a story of God taking the bitterest of hardships. Remember, Naomi's name means bitter, making her and Ruth incredibly blessed. Notice chapter 4, verses 14 and 15, where the women say to Naomi that this child is better to you than 7 sons. Even more unlikely, God has purposefully taken a seemingly impossible situation and a totally unlikely person, a widowed Moabite woman, and working through all of that to demonstrate his amazing grace in not just redeeming her, but putting her in the path that one day will bring the world the Redeemer, Jesus Christ. So, as you start the lesson, you really need to read chapter 3, 1 through 7. For context, it sets the stage for what Naomi is instructing Ruth to do when she tells her to go to the threshing floor. The lesson context page says Naomi, hatched a plan. To me, that kind of language suggests that she just thought of it all herself, right? And she came up with this idea, but that's not at all what happened. This is an ancient Near Eastern custom that would be very familiar to her, that enabled Ruth to literally propose marriage to Boaz by her actions on the threshing floor, to let him know, you're a kinsman, but because he was older than her, and perhaps significantly older than her, on some level, maybe significance too hard a word, he wouldn't have done that himself. He probably wouldn't have initiated a proposal, not only because of his age, but also because of the fact that he wasn't the nearest kinsman, and he knew that. So it would almost be like, if he proposed, that would definitely be breaching ethical conduct, because it wasn't his right to do that. He had to get permission, which is what this whole passage is all about. He had to present to this near kinsman his opportunity and his responsibility, and see what he would do about it. Verse 10 in chapter 3 demonstrates the age situation. So everything in this passage really shouts of Boaz and Ruth's character. So don't bring your modern mindset into this text. Don't let your class say things that is completely outside of the text. I hear this a lot. I hear people making assumptions. I hear them bringing their modern ideas and not really understanding the context. And for example, commentators will do the same thing. Chapter 3, verse 7 says, Boaz ate and drank, and his heart was merry, and he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. I've read foolish interpretations of this as indicating that, maybe Boaz was drunk, and that's why, he didn't really know what was going on when he woke up and Ruth's at his feet. No, he was eating a meal after a long, hard day of work, and his heart is merry because he's just gotten this incredible harvest, and he's finished working. You know how you feel good about that, and you want to sit down, have a meal, and rest, and that's what he's doing. And remember, they just come out of a time of famine not too long ago, so he's merry, he's joyful. And he's sleeping at the grain pile, not because he just passed out from drinking too much, but to protect it. Verse 9, how many of you would respond today? Of course, it's a very different culture, situation, but if you were to woke up in the middle of the night and a beautiful young woman, not your wife, is at your feet, keep in mind this was part of the culture. This was a situation that, although it wouldn't be something that would happen to everyone or every day, notice that he asks, "Who are you?" He does not ask what in the world you are doing. He understands what is happening. She replies, "Spread your wing over your maidservant," which parallels his words back in chapter 2, verse 12, when he says to her, uh, wait, um, may your wages be from the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to seek refuge. Chapter 2, verse 12. So basically um, now she is basically saying to him, the same concept. In other words, let the Lord do that through you. Let you be the instrument of blessing. I think I had a typo there. It doesn't say wages, and I'm not looking at the verse right now of 2:12. I'm not going to go back and look at that. So now she's basically saying, let the Lord do this through you. In verses 10 through 13, the kinsman redeemer situation is really being spelled out. You should turn to Deuteronomy 25, verses 5 through 10 to get a better understanding of that. To your class, verse 11, all my people within the gates of the city know that you are a woman of excellence. Okay, she's not a loose woman, or someone of lower character who's just trying to force her way, manipulate her way into a marriage for her benefit. But what a powerful statement of the testimony, the reputation she's already gained in 3 months. She's been in Bethlehem basically 3 months, because she went, chapter 1, verse 22 says, at the beginning of the harvest, and now it's harvest time. At the beginning of the barley season, and now it's harvest time. So what a testimony. Application to your class. People are watching you. People know what's going on in your life. They know who you are. Are they noticing your character, or are they noticing a lack of character? Because it's easy to put on a show, right, in front of people and at church and everything, but it's in the gritty day-to-day stuff that people are watching you and they know what you're all about. How does it make you feel to know that? Good discussion questions. Verses 13 and 14, Boaz tells her to lie down until morning. 2 reasons, probably. So she wouldn't be traveling in the middle of the night, which would be dangerous. And secondly, so she could get up and get out of there, the next phrase, let no one know that you're here. Why? Because of her reputation and his reputation. She needed to leave before people would see her leaving and think, the wrong thing. But he didn't want her leaving in the middle of the night. In chapter 4, verse 13 through 17, a couple thoughts there. Verse 8, why do you think the near kinsman didn't redeem Ruth? Well, the answer is in verse 6. He says that it might ruin his inheritance. Why is that? Well, notice the language of verse 8. Acquire this, or buy this, or redeem this for yourself. This was a financial transaction with some sacrifice involved, because basically you would be purchasing the land, but not really getting the benefit of the land for your heirs, because that land is going to stay in Elimelech, aka Naomi now's family, and her descendants through Ruth, not the one who actually marries Ruth. Not his family, not his heirs who are getting his property. This property is going to belong to Naomi and to Ruth's other children by extension, which will end up being Boaz and Ruth's children, but not right away. So this was a financial sacrifice. There's probably other reasons, other things that we're not aware of, but anyways, he saw that. He saw the price, he saw the cost, said, no, I can't do that. Boaz was very willing to do that. Verse 13, the curriculum mentions that the Lord enabled her to conceive. That's from the New American Standard Version, and how it's translated in all versions, really indicate that God opened the womb. It doesn't say that, but of Ruth, that she was barren before. Remember, she was married for 10 years and never had children. So that was unusual. So God now enables her to conceive in his timing for his purposes. Verse 14, notice the blessing and praise is directed at Naomi, not at Ruth. The curriculum states in the second column, second to last paragraph, page 148, this was not an adoption, but the natural actions of a grateful grandparent, talking about Naomi taking Obed and nursing him. But it's more than the natural actions of a grateful grandparent. The child was, in effect, the son of Elimelech, Naomi's husband. From the standpoint of the land inheritance, the family name, and all that. That's why in chapter 4, verse 14, the women say to Naomi, not to Ruth, God has not left you without a redeemer today. So there's a very real sense in which Boaz is Naomi's kinsman redeemer, as well as Ruth's. So there's a lot of stuff there that is very, very Jewish, very, very Old Testament culture context that would be easy to miss. So it's your job as a teacher to make sure they don't miss it. And it's also your job to control discussion so that people don't start saying things that are really out there that are not coming from the text. And it's great to have discussion, but you've got to guide it to the truth when they're going off the rails a little bit. I hope to see you Sunday at breakfast. I hope to see you in your classes. I hope you'll get all your materials for Romans coming up the following week. And I hope you have a great weekend.